What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mars. It's Sertain Curtain, aka Champ, manager of CC United, winner of the only MPL Cup that has occurred on Mars. And I'm putting a video together for some onboarding folks, let them know, kind of walk them through team creation, specifically player creation, and some of the stats that you want to look at depending on the positions that you're going for. So we got the Play Sharper community coming in. And so hopefully this can be helpful for trying to figure out how to build your team. Anybody that comments on this video that's a part of that tournament, I'll raffle off some loans that'll last for the duration of the Play Sharper tournament. Some higher skill players that'll be loaned to your team for 2 weeks or so that you can use to try to give you a leg up against the competition. So like, subscribe, comment, do all the things that people do on YouTube. All right, so when you jump into the game and you create your team, you're going to get this screen. And most of you are going to be creating your synths, which will be right down here. For this demonstration, though, I'm just going to use one of my uncustomized players to show you what that looks like. So once you choose a synth or an MPL, whoever it is, this is the screen that you're going to see. You can name your player, but most importantly, you need to spread the skill points that each person gets. So you'll have synths that are anywhere from struggling all the way up through excellent. Excellents are pretty rare, but you will get them. And you'll need to spread their points across some categories. So the categories that you can spread them to are goalkeeping, passing, finishing, stamina, defending, and playmaking. And each one is kind of helps out in different ways for different parts of the pitch or the field. And the way that you do this, so you don't actually spread. So this person has 58 points. You don't do that manually. You have to do it through rolling the dice, kind of by choosing these positions. And don't be fooled by the list of the positions. It does not go from most defensive to most offensive. There's some tweaks in there that you don't want to make that assumption. And so I'm going to go through and kind of give you the tiers and the rankings and what I would kind of focus on for each position. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about forwards. Forwards are the players that are going to be in the front, trying to score your goals, trying to create opportunities, and then getting those shots on net. So the two major God tier statistics for forward are playmaking and finishing. Playmaking basically is about how many chances you get. So playmaking allows for scoring opportunities. Finishing directly correlates to whether or not those shots are able to get onto the target. So you'll see, I've had matches before where I might have 13 shots, but only one is on target because I have a team that doesn't have a lot of finishing. Or you might not have a lot of playmaking, so you might see, 2 shots both on target, but you don't have a lot of chances. So if the keeper saves those 2, you're not going to end up with a lot of opportunities, not a lot of goals scored. So you need to have a nice balance of the two of those. After that, for the A tier is passing. Passing is pretty important across the board. That's how you keep possession. It's how you try to keep the ball away from the other team. Next is stamina and wing play. I think that no matter how many people you have in the front, there's going to be some play on the wings. And that's kind of, wing play is almost like an RNG role that helps you with the outside of the pitch. So towards the wings, right, as we call it. And then stamina is just how tired your players get. And while we don't have a really good idea of we don't have a specific idea how the engine works with stamina, I've noticed that lower stamina teams do tend to have more injuries. They tend to have more yellow cards and red cards as they kind of progress through the game. It seems like maybe there's a stat penalty as your stamina runs out, but we don't really have, we haven't been able to prove that or see it. But I do believe that stamina is very important, especially if you're going to be aggressive with forwards. They need to make the most of all their opportunities. So I like to have their stamina high. I don't have anything under the C tier. For D, I have defending. It's only slightly above the F tier, only because it's nice to have a little bit of defending there, because sometimes you'll encounter teams that have defenders with very little passing or very little playmaking, very little wing play. So if you are able to have your forwards steal a couple shots, those could create really nice scoring opportunities for you. And F is goalkeeping. There's no reason to have any kind of goalkeeping as a forward. The recommended positions that I would recommend, I like complete forward is number 1. That typically gets you a little more playmaking than finishing. It's not always the case because it's a dice roll, but it does tend to give you a little bit more playmaking, a little bit more passing that can help you control the ball. Next is poacher. I do think it's important to have one poacher, especially if you have 3 forwards. I like to have 2 complete forwards to generate opportunities, and then 1 poacher that can kind of try to finish those opportunities, because I've made a trade on finishing to have that really nice playmaking. And then finally is wide playmaker. I've only done that a couple times, but having someone that's really good on the edge with that playmaking, so someone that with high wing play, high playmaking, is someone that I kind of like to have a little bit of that on the side, because I think that wing play does tend to be a little bit underutilized by some teams. All right, next we've got midfielders. So midfielder, that's all about controlling the ball. So you want to make sure that your players hold the ball long enough to get it into the forwards, and you want to make sure that you are able to defend against the other team's passing to try to ensure that they do not get the ball to their forwards to try to create scoring opportunities. So here we've got the S tier is passing. It's all about, you want to make sure you have more passing than your opponent. That was a big thing with the MPL Cup, I felt, was trying to make sure that I had more passing in the midfield than my opponent. Next is defending and stamina. Defending, again, helps you prevent the other team from creating scoring opportunities by getting the ball into their forwards. And then stamina, I mean, these guys in the middle of the field, they're constantly moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I think stamina comes in a little bit stronger here than it would at forward position, because I just think they're moving around a lot more. For the B tier, I've got wing play if they are positioned out wide. The great thing about the midfield is there's a lot of options. You can have 3, you can have 4, you can have 5 players there. If you have a 5-player midfield, those 2 guys on the outside there are going to be so wide that you want to make sure that they have some really nice wing play, because that's going to affect everything they do out there. For C, I have playmaking and finishing. For tier C, there's still, when you're playing the game, you'll get a lot of. You will see shots coming from your midfielders. So they will have opportunities, and you want to make sure they're not completely terrible there. With wing play, D, I have wing play if you're in the middle position, because you won't be on the sides, that you won't need that. And then F is goalkeeping, because you don't need anyone in the midfield trying to tend goal. For recommended options, I like the box-to-box midfielder. For high passing, that's kind of the first thing that you get there. Wide playmaker is kind of passing and playmaking, whereas box-to-box midfielder, you might see passing and defending kind of rising to the top. Most of these should have good stamina, but you might have some bad rolls here or there. I like complete forward. We used it for forward. I still like it for the midfield, especially when you have when you're trying to create those opportunities. I think it's really nice. And then wing back, this is the first, it's kind of defense based. No nonsense center back. I like to have one no nonsense center back, which is kind of classically a defender. I like to have them in my midfield. I like to have kind of a destroyer role. That's what they call it in football or soccer. So I like to have one no nonsense center back that's just going to blow up everything, have maximum defending there. And that's kind of their whole goal. Wing back has some wide playmaking, has some defending. So they're kind of nice, but I generally don't go that far. The one thing I want to say is stay away is the ball-winning midfielder, which is your traditional defensive midfielder. And the only reason I want to stay away from that is because due to the way that it's set up, all of these other ones that we're talking about, goalkeeping will stay 0 when you do your rolls. For whatever reason, ball-winning midfielder, you could actually get 1 or 2 points of goalkeeping, and that's 1 or 2 points that could go somewhere that could be they're basically taking away from a statistic that you could really use. So I would not use ball-winning midfielder. The one thing that the MPL does allow for is re-rolls every first and third Sunday of the month, but that does cost readies, which is the in-game currency, and a lot of people watching this video, creating this for the first time, won't have any readies yet. So I really would recommend not trying to roll ball-winning midfielder, which can be valuable if you're able to re-roll a lot, until you actually have the readies to do that, because you could end up wasting points on goalkeeping. Next, we've got defender. Of course, God tier for defenders, you're going to have defending. Then you're going to have stamina and passing in the A and B right there. You want to make sure that these guys get the ball, are not tired, so that they can deal with the forwards. And then you want to make sure that they can get the ball into the midfield. So they need to get it out of the defense into the midfield. And you definitely don't want, as I was saying for forwards, you don't want your defenders losing the ball to forwards. That's one of the things you really want to avoid. So I like passing there. For the C tier, I have wing play. It's not quite as important here because the maximum, well, you can have 5 there. So if you have guys all the way, if you have a 5-person defense or a 4-person defense, you want to make sure there's some high stats on the wings. And then I have playmaking and finishing above goalkeeping. And then playmaking and finishing you're rarely going to see, but for corners, you will still see defenders get opportunities for to score the ball. So you want to make sure they are a little bit capable there if you can. So it's not the end of the world if you have 0 playmaking, 0 finishing, but if you have 3 points, 4 points, that's actually kind of ideal. And then goalkeeping, and I don't like to do any wing play for my center back defenders because they're in front of the goal. I don't see them ever going out wide. For the recommended options here, we've got the no-nonsense center back. I use that one a ton. As I said, I use it for my midfield. I also use it for my defense. I like to have at least 2 no-nonsense center backs with max defending on the field at all times. The wing back is really nice to give you some of that wing play with a high defense. That's a good one to go for. And then wide playmaker, if you have a lot of defenders back there, you're going to have some strong defending. So a wide playmaker on the edge that can push that ball out of the defense can be really valuable. And then again, the stay away here is going to be your ball-winning midfielder, only because you can actually get those goalkeeping stats that you want to stay away from. All right, so for goalkeepers, it's goalkeeping is the god tier. Obviously, you need that. That's their whole job. They're not doing much else. I don't have anything for the A tier because really there's nothing that touches goalkeeping. Then we've got passing in B because once they block that shot, you can't turn it over there, right? If you ever watch soccer highlights, that's the deal. You pass the ball, a forward gets it, and it's a goal every single time. So you want to have some passing there. You want to have stamina because they likely aren't moving around that much, but you really want them to be at the top of their game throughout the match. And then you want a little bit of playmaking. Isn't all that bad. Every once in a while, you'll get an assist come from the goalie or from the keeper. So playmaking isn't all that bad either. All other stats are F. You don't need finishing. They're never going to be taking shots. And I don't really even like defending, to be honest, because they're blocking the goal. The recommended options here are goalkeeper and sweeper keeper. I always use goalkeeper because I feel like the maximum stat I want here is goalkeeping. And sweeper keeper brings that down just a little bit to spread it around to some other stats. So this has been the first video here. Once again, anybody that comments to this, we'll be doing a raffle to get you some loans to help with the Play Sharper tournament. And feel free to reach out with any questions. I can answer them. We're also live on the Discord. We can answer any questions that anybody has. But yeah, this should get everybody started with kind of what you want. And when you're building your team, we can talk about that later, but you probably want a pretty balanced team so you can run all of these different formations that are available. So whether you have 2 forwards starting, 1 on your bench so you can run 3 forwards, or you have enough people so you can run 5 defenders, whatever it is, you want to make sure you have a pretty well-balanced team because you'll have a lot of different opponents that are giving you a lot of different looks. So anyway, thank you. This has been Sertain Curtain of the MPL Community Council, aka the champ. Nobody forget, I won the MPL Cup. All right, talk to everybody later.